write musically at Brandeis? What was your... You wrote Symphony No. 1 in University of New Mexico, and what did you write in Brandeis?
Brandeis, I wrote Gauguin, Leger, and Dali. And I wrote something else I can't remember. I wrote some other music. And I taught Arabic at Brandeis.
And where Brandeis?
Brandeis is in Waltham, Massachusetts. Yeah. It was in Waltham, Massachusetts.
So that's the only one you wrote?
Gauguin, Leger, and Dali. And I think I had some other, I played my string. I played there between Noon Conservatory, and because at Brandeis I had the premiere, one of the premieres of what's these two piano pieces? What's the name of that? Symbiotic, what is it? Osmosymbiotic. A word called osmosymbiotic. See the science coming into my music. And it was premiered and it was played in Brandeis when one of the famous composers from France, Milo came to visit, and when they played my piece, brought the rain down over the tent and came on top of everybody. Yeah. Darius Milo, I met at Brandeis. He came from France for an opening, and they played my Osmosymbiotic there for two pianos with Ivan Waldbauer and Susie Waldbauer.
So you wrote Osmo at Brandeis?
Huh?
You wrote Osmosymbiotic at Brandeis?
Actually, I was in New England Conservatory when I wrote it, before I went to Brandeis.
Oh, you went to New England Conservatory. Wait, let me get straight. Tanglewood, then
New England Conservatory, then Brandeis.
And then back to Tanglewood?
No. I went, New England Conservatory, I was back to Tanglewood in the summer of 52. 51 and 52 I was in.
And you graduated from New England Conservatory in 50?
With a Master of Music, and then I went to Brandeis, and instead of getting a doctorate, they didn't have it because they were new. They gave me an MFA in music composition.
Okay. All right, then what did you do after that?
After that...
To New York City?
I don't know, I'm trying to remember now. After that... in 1953 I went to Egypt. After that I went to Egypt and saw my mother. And then I think Mary was very upset that I left her and went to Egypt, because I was married in 1952.
Okay.
And then I went to Egypt, and I was going to stay in Egypt and forgot everything about America. And so the letters came, and Mary talked to her senator in Missouri, that her husband is in Egypt and he should come back, and they should make special arrangements for him to go back in the United States. So then I came back. I think I came back and taught a course in Arabic at Brandeis.
Okay. Then you went to New York City, didn't you?
I didn't get to New York until 1956.
1956.
So there was a period...
So you're bouncing back and forth.
Yeah.
Between...
Egypt and America.
Egypt and America.
And France.
And the furthest place you went, the closest place you went to would have been New York, but you jumped all the way to New Mexico, Albuquerque.
Because that's where you got the scholarship.
And then from Albuquerque, holy smokes, man. Wow.
Yeah, I traveled.
So, just to get here to Albuquerque on this scholarship, you had some interesting story about the embassy in Cairo giving you Indian music. You asked for American music?
The way I ended up in Albuquerque was very interesting. Because when I got the scholarship, I ran into the library in Cairo, the American Embassy Library, and there was a sweet-looking Egyptian lady who was at the library in American University, and I said to her, "Hey, I don't know what's her name. I'm going to America. I want to listen to American music." And you know what she gave me? Native American music. That's why I ended up in Albuquerque, because I was supposed to be in New York and Juilliard. So here I had American music. To me was that boom, 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 boom. Hey, 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 you know, I loved it. So, so they sent me to Albuquerque instead of Juilliard. You know what, Juilliard is the best music school in the world. But it's a good thing I didn't go there. But they played my music and I got a composition prize there.
So then how did you went from Boston area to New York. How did you get there? You just went, right?
From New York, oh, in Boston, I started taking the train back and forth. Oh, I took, after that, MacDowell Colony was involved in New Hampshire. I was invited to stay in a colony of artists in New Hampshire. And they gave me a log cabin and a fireplace, and they brought, at lunchtime, they didn't disturb me, they brought the food in front of the cabin. I had a log cabin, and there was deer all over the place, everywhere.
And even your wife wasn't allowed?
No, even my wife was not allowed with me.
I bet she liked that.
Huh?
I bet she liked that.
No,
well, the purpose of it is you're there to work.
yeah.
You have a scholarship.
You have a scholarship to stay
You
there.
need to concentrate.
But they came, and the kids, they came. Well, I have Shadia in 1955, and then I was in New York, and I got Amira in 1959.
Did they travel with you?
Yeah.
All
Some
over?
of it. Well, yeah, they went one trip to Egypt, and they traveled with me to Italy, to Greece. Yeah, they're still in Greece. They had elementary education in Greece. We went with them to Greece. They came with me. They went to Ethiopia with me.
Oh shit! I didn't get that lucky.
Brazil and Egypt, right?
And they went to Italy. And they went to Egypt, Italy, and Ethiopia. They went to the Azores, Portugal area. Yeah, they traveled with me, some of it. Some of it I was carrying them with my arms like that. That mean I was 1 year ago. And people would scream at me, "Don't carry your baby like that."
So
Yeah, we traveled in the Queen Mary and Queen Elizabeth and the Independence boats. We traveled by boat.
So during all this time...
Aren't those historical boats?
Yeah. Queen Mary, Queen Elizabeth.
Is it still around?
They don't travel, but they're historic.
Queen Mary's in Long Beach. Next time you go, you can tour it.
Queen Mary? You traveled on the Queen Mary?
Mm-hmm.
So did Grandma. So did Grandma, to go to the war.
And I traveled on Queen Elizabeth and the Independence. The thing is, the Independence, the captain was the cousin to Mary. So they gave us kind of special. Yeah.
So were you interested in what we call, well, I guess you were, ethnomusicology all this time, because you talked about this Cairo conference of quote-unquote world music, but you were still taking an interest while you were traveling in ethno, weren't you?
Yeah, all the time. I had the first conference in New York where I met the fella Schwander. It was 1955. They call it the Conference of Non-Western Music.
And now it's evolved to what, the world music, and
Now they call it world music.
and now ethnomusicology too.
Well, world music, ethnomusicology, yeah.
And you teach these classes for many years. What do you teach in the classes?
Well, I didn't really go into the academic system. I freelanced for a long time in New York City. So I wrote music for the greatest dancers of the world. I wrote music for Martha Graham, I wrote music for Narev, I wrote music for Luis Radumano, I wrote music for Yuriko, I wrote music for, for all those great dancers.
What were the pieces, the names of the pieces you wrote?
I wrote Clytemnestra for Martha Graham. And this became a world center on Broadway. I played that was done on Broadway. I did Look at Lightning on Broadway. I did Cleopatra, One More Gaudy Night on Broadway. I did what's her name? The Doxastico, which is Theodora in Greece, in the Athens area. I did Clytemnestra at the New York Opera House. Yeah. I did a lot of work.
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
So,
what, you said you were in agriculture to begin with, and then you went to music.
Yeah, I learned a lot from music through agriculture. You know why?
No.
Every time I traveled in, well, I had grants to go back to Egypt to research Egyptian music. That was the funniest thing. Here I am in America. I got grants to send me back home to study the music in Egypt. I loved that. So I went and studied. I did research in Upper Egypt. I did research. Well, when I was there, the government, while I was here, I went back to Egypt and became first consultant to the Minister Minister of Culture. If I stayed in Egypt, I would be Minister of Culture right now. So I was in Egypt, and then at that time I went. They gave me a boat all over the Nile to study the music of Egypt, all the way to Nubia. I had a houseboat with crew members pulling it all the way to Sudan. And I stopped and researched the music in every area. And I give that research to the Egyptian government. Yeah. So I worked for Egypt, and then Egypt sent me to France to write the music for the pyramid.
You have this interesting cross going back and forth between ethnomusicology and classical music. How did they influence each other?
Well, classical music is a form. Classical means you write music that has roots to continue for many, many, many years. It's not a fad. It's not just something coming and going. It has roots in as an art form that continues forever. So you call it classical. It's going to continue, have its forms and its collective meaning for a long time. So when I say classical...
How does the ethnomusicology influence your writing?
Well, Bartók did the same thing. Bartók came to Egypt and studied the music there, and he was an ethnomusicologist in a way, but he didn't claim it, and wrote his music inspired by Hungarian music and by the music he recorded. So I'm inspired by Egyptian traditional music, and I'm inspired by the environment and the situation that I'm in, the environment I live.
So would you say that your work for Martha Graham was the biggest work you've done?
Yes, well, the work for Martha Graham takes 2 hours to play.
Most important piece you've ever written?
It was the longest one too. It takes 2 hours to play one piece, yeah.
How was your experience working with her? You'd write and choreograph with her, or she would choreograph and you'd go back and write?
Well, that's a new story. I mean, she's a genius as a dancer. And she's a very incredible person, very strong, very determined, knew exactly what she wanted. She was so much involved with ancient Egypt that really attracted me to her. and attracted her to me is that her involvement with Greek, first involvement was Greek tragedy and then was Egyptian, ancient Egyptian material. She used a lot of ancient Egyptian styling of clothes.
Yeah, I think Halston was the designer for her, wasn't she, Halston?
Huh?
Halston was the designer.
It was one of them later, yeah, one of them. First, she used to design it herself.
So you work and see how
my work with her really was an opening to the whole world in a way, in terms of the classic. Because after that, I was invited to Greece to do Theodora. So the Greece government invited me for a whole year, actually, to write there and live on the islands and wrote a big, huge work there.
So how was Eugene Lester involved with Clytemnestra and...
Eugene Lester heard my music.
Was he pianist or copyist?
He was a accompanist to Martha Graham. And he's also a composer.
And you also had a copyist, of course, right?
Yeah, well, the copyists who copied with me were just composers out of jobs. Who came in. When I did Clytemnestra, I had 12 people copying it. 12 unemployed composers came and copied the music into parts.
Wow. So you gave up New York and went to Ethiopia on a grant, right?
Yeah, I went to Ethiopia and stayed there for about 3 years.
What was the fascination with Ethiopia?
Oh, Ethiopia, that's another chapter. Ethiopia relates to Egypt in the chant, the way people chant.
The way people chant?
Yeah, like the Coptic chant and the Ethiopic chant. And then the relationship of the River Nile all the way through Nubia and into Ethiopia, and how the culture changed on the River Nile and how it was interpreted in Ethiopia at the Horn of Africa. And I became interested in the connection, how Egyptian music and African music intermingle, and how this is very powerful area of the world, and it has roots that influence all the music of the world.
So how did you get this scholarship? How did you get this grant? What was this, a Rockefeller grant?
Boy.
How did I get that? Yeah, I told you the story. I was walking down the street in New York City on, was it 6th Avenue? The Americas, the Avenue of the Americas, I think. And I was walking in front of the Rockefeller building. And there was a skating ring there, and I was watching the skating ring, and I was kind of walking, and as I was turning around, I bumped into a guy who I thought never. I said, "Dr. Faz, what you doing here?" I said, "El-dabh, what you doing here?" I banged into him in front of the street.
Who was Dr. Faz?
Dr. Faz is the man who never wanted to talk to me. Because I met him in Egypt, and I took him to a program by the pyramids.
Is he the one that's in the picture back home?
No, that's Fuad.
Huh?
Fuad.
That's Fuad. Fuad is a doctor, no.
What about when you took me to New York with you and we went to a big tall skyscraper and it was some office building that you knew everybody. We were on the way to Egypt and we had hours until the plane was ready. So we were stuck in New York for hours until the plane was ready.
That big building was my publisher.
Oh, really?
Yeah. You met my publisher. You met Stephen. Stephen was after what's his name? Walter Henriksen. Yeah, you met. At that time, the publisher took you to dinner and wanted you to see New York and me. Yeah, my publisher.
Is he still around?
Yeah, but they're poor now. Back then they were rich when I took you there.
So let's go see him again.
Huh?
Let's go see him again.
Yeah, we'll go, but it's a different. Stephen Fisher was the one who took you out. Stephen Fisher took us out and showed that he's no longer working there. But somebody else by Eugene Caprioli. Yeah, we can go visit. But they don't have that big building anymore.
Whatever.
Yeah, they have a small building outside of New York City. So anyway, yeah, what is the question?
I was just asking how you then how you ended up in Ethiopia?
Oh, okay, so I banged into this guy, okay? I said this guy didn't want to see me because he was angry at me. When he was in Egypt, I took him to a ceremony, traditional, and the tradition ceremony was very real. The people of the nightclub employed these people from Upper Egypt who are very strong spiritualists, you know. So they do their dance, and when they do the dance, it vibrates everybody. Everybody was falling on the ground in trance. Yeah, you can't believe it. Everybody fell and shaking on the ground.
This was Tsar, right?
It was not a czar. It was something by a group of people from Upper Egypt.